Real quick, then it starts 7. Did you get your email?
Yes.
I forgot to bring my copy. There's one of the other laying on the printer.
I don't know how to check my
Grammatically
email.
correct.
I never did
Gloria.
I got an iPhone, I don't know how to use it.
Okay.
I guess I have it wrong.
We've read through the whole thing, and we're down to the third from the bottom question. Why does God allow martyrs? We kind of touched on it last week. Be reviewed.
1,000 for every martyr. For every person who dies a martyr, 1,000 people are converted to Christ.
Yeah, actually thousands.
You didn't read that.
Thousands. I wrote it down from last week. That means I paid
Yeah,
attention.
no, that's a good note.
Thank you.
That thousands of people, for every martyr that dies, thousands of
Put a
people
/s.
see the power of God in that death and are converted to
A
Christ.
martyr is a person who was killed for their cause.
Okay, the next question, what writer brings about verse 12? Remember we talked about verse 12, and it looks like, and we missed one point in there. Somebody asked a question
what
after
writer?
class last week. What do you think the falling stars are? The stars falling to earth?
Missiles.
Exactly. How would John describe a missile in the first century if he saw modern warfare in his vision?
Start falling.
The only lights he knows that are in the sky is the sun and the stars and the moon. And he would, to him, the only way he would have to describe it would be falling stars, or stars falling to earth. And, a first century man would have a hard time describing, he doesn't have the term intercontinental ballistic missile. He just sees, he didn't even know what meteors are. Meteors weren't even actually explained very well until the 13th, 14th century. They thought they were falling stars. And especially a man who's not trained in astronomy and whatever, what else would he say? He would say falling stars. Okay, and the last question, what does 12 seem to be describing? We talked about that. It kind of looks like a nuclear exchange. And a lot of people in the Middle East are now getting, a lot of fanatics in the Middle East are now getting nuclear capability. India has it. Pakistan probably has it because of India. Israel has it. Russia's there, they have it. We're there on the seas, we have it. And I'd be very much surprised if Iran doesn't already have it. Short range, but they probably already have
And that freak in Korea, that was the top story this morning.
it. Oh, yeah.
Kim Jong-un.
There's nothing worse than a little short guy that thinks he's somebody.
I resemble that remark.
I knew you would. Okay, any questions on chapter 6?
What was the answer to which writer
You have any
about
doubts about
verse
what
12?
I give up.
I used to work for a little short guy that thought he was.
I don't think I'm anybody though. That's the nice part about being me. I just
Actually owned the company.
You know, huh?
leave right, please everybody.
Part of my job was filing the invoices after they had filled them and the stockroom brought them in. Stockroom guys weren't very good at filing. So one of my jobs was to come in and file the invoices. And so this little short guy came in one day and pulled out an invoice and he was looking at something. And there was a tray up on top of the filing cabinet that said file on it. And so they would, when they got done, if you pulled an invoice, when they got done, they'd put it in the file tray. And then I'd come in and I'd file it before I started checking out the computer stuff. And he comes in one day and I was standing in there and he takes one, he pulls open the drawer and takes one out and he said, "Here, you can file this back," and he threw it on the floor. Well, I was 6'3" and he was 5'4", and he was a little short guy with a complex. And I kept filing. I turned around and walked away and left it laying on the floor. And he said, wait a minute. He was standing there waiting for me to bow down in front of him and pick up the file and put it in the filing cabinet. And he said, hey, wait a minute. You didn't file this one. I came back in and I said, do you see this tray right here that says file? That if you're not aware of that, they go in there and then I file them. And I went and sat down at my desk. And I heard him say as I was walking away, I don't intimidate him at all, do I? And over my shoulder on the way back, I said, no, you don't.
There are two people at the mill shorter than me now. And when they walked in looking for a job, I told the boss, I said, hire him. And one guy's name's Adam, and I nicknamed him Little Feller. That's what I call him. On my Facebook, he's Little Feller.
Are they 12?
Okay.
Hey, does Bill know about the child labor law?
No, he doesn't.
Chapter 7. Somebody read 1 through 4.
After this I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds of the earth to prevent any wind from blowing on the land, or on the sea, or on any tree. Then I saw another angel coming up from the east, having the seal of the living God. He called out in a loud voice to the 4 angels who had been given power to harm the land and the sea. Do not harm the land or the sea or the trees until we put a seal on the foreheads of the servants of our God. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel.
Okay. The first 3.5 years is about to end. The seal that the angel has in his hand is the 7th seal. And within the 7th seal, when he opens it, it reveals the 7 trumpets, which are going to be the last 3.5 years of the 7 years. Okay? So when he opens that, the trumpets are going to start to blow, and the actions of the trumpets are going to start to take place. But God says, before that angel opens that seal, he says what? In general, what's he saying?
Wait till he marks his people.
Right. Wait until we're prepared. Wait till I mark my people. Wait until everything is ready. In other words, this is not a haphazard action. It is a complete and controlled action by God. And so no matter what we see going on this earth for those last 3.5 years, our God is in total control. The 4 angels. You know, back when we first looked at the beginning of the seals, there were 4 riders. Now there's 4 angels. Okay? And there's a lot of debate about who those 4 riders are. You know, the one in white must be Jesus, right? Right. No. Because the Bible also says that Satan appears as an angel of light. He tries to mimic God. He tries to be a counterfeit of God. He tries to fool us into thinking that he's God and that he's in control. So he will appear as a white rider the way Jesus will at the end of Revelation in chapter 19. He will try to appear as the white rider. But he's a counterfeit. He's what the Bible calls an antichrist. Not the Christ, but a counterfeit Christ. Okay? So, and it didn't tell us about the 4 angels there, but now it tells us about the 4 angels. And what we're about to see from the trumpets is the same 4 riders, but they're going to give a second warning, and it's going to be a more severe warning than the first warning. Yep.
What's the 4 corners of the earth?
Great question.
How can you have 4 corners? I know it seems silly, but
It also says the 4 winds, north, east, south, and west. Okay, it's talking about the whole earth.
okay.
Okay, if it's 4 corners of this room, it's talking about the whole room, right?
Right.
So what he's saying there in descriptive language is I'm going to be in complete charge. These 4 angels are watching out over the entire earth. They're in charge. They're not letting anything happen except exactly what God wants to happen. And there's not going to be any corners somewhere where there's a rebellion going on and God's not in charge of it. So if all 4 corners are covered, what's not covered in this room? You know, usually when I play hide and seek with my grandkids, they like to hide in corners. They like to hide in dark spaces. Well, basically, it's saying that everything is going to be controlled and nothing's going to be going on in secret. God is covering it all. Okay? Any other questions? Go ahead. Let's stump the teacher. Okay.
I always had a question. So whenever the Antichrist comes, will we just kind of just know that's not
Oh, yeah.
God? So like we're not gonna, because that's, I'm like, what if I'm afraid and I don't know? So we will just know that's not.
Well, first of all,
Like in our heart.
he will claim to be the second coming of Jesus Christ. He'll just stand up and say, I have returned.
It's Barack Obama.
Will we, will we know that it's not the second coming of Jesus Christ?
Yeah, because God won't do that.
Okay, what characterizes the second coming of Jesus Christ? How will we know whether he's Jesus or not?
We're gonna go with him, right?
Right, when Jesus returns for his second coming, not his first and a half coming, but his second coming, he's going to come like lightning from the east is to the west. He's going to come in the clouds with the host of heaven with him. Okay, it's going to be really busy in the sky on that day. He's not going to be some guy walking around on earth trying to convince me that he's God. That last trumpet is going to blow, that 7th trumpet is going to blow, and we'll get to that in 3 or 4 chapters. When that trumpet blows, the whole world will hear it, and the sky will be filled with the hosts of heaven, and Jesus Christ will be standing on a cloud. There won't be any mistaking Jesus Christ when he comes back this time.
Then how in the world will people even believe in the Antichrist?
I'm sorry, what?
I said, how in the world will people even believe in the Antichrist?
We're going to get into that when we get there, but the Bible says that most people have itching ears. They want somebody to tell them what they want to hear. This guy's going to be, in other words, this guy's going to be a politician. He's going to tell you what you want to hear. He's going to promise you the world.
That David Koresh in Waco, Texas, wasn't it? And he thought he was Christ, and he had some people in his cult convinced.
Yeah, oh yeah. And the Hale-Bopp Comet folks, the Jim Jones folks, they all followed after these men, and all these men eventually, you know, a lot of them started out pretty sound, but in the end, they thought they were Jesus. And Jesus said in the 14th chapter, in the 24th chapter of Matthew, he said that that Antichrist would rise up and there would be many of them when the last days come, and they're popping up everywhere. But when Jesus really comes back for the second coming, we will recognize him, because when that trumpet blows, we rise to meet him in the sky. We're gone. We're out of here. When that 7th trumpet blows, we're gone. And about half, at 30,000 feet, I'm not going to have it. You know, as I'm rising up, at 30,000 feet, I'm not going to have any doubt whatsoever that it's Jesus Christ. Not going to be anybody walking around here on earth trying to convince me of it. It'll be absolutely and positively clear to me on my way up that it's Jesus Christ. Other than that, beware. If I start telling you I'm Jesus, get out of this room as fast as you can, because I have become deluded.
I ain't gonna get out of here. I'm gonna anoint you and pray for you.
And then get out of here. Okay. There's 4 angels in charge. I believe these 4 angels have always been in charge. it just talked about the riders in the chapter 6, the first 4 horsemen, but they were under the total control of these 4 angels.
true.
But in chapter 7, it reveals that the angels are there too.
Interesting.
They don't just show up for this, they have been there all along,
It's the first one I had.
because God's been in charge of them. So they've been controlled. It'll be holding back the 4 winds to prevent the wind from blowing on the land or the sea or on any tree. What happens to the earth if you take this literally and the winds actually stop blowing?
Gets stale.
Hmm?
Gets stale.
It's really stale.
It's too hot.
Hmm?
It's either too hot or too cold.
Right, there will be no cooling effect of the wind. The convection currents will stop moving across the earth.
Plants won't get germinated.
Hmm?
Plants and trees that depend on the wind for pollination and things to get, so that they grow.
Yep, and for moisture. What brings the storm to us? There's always a wind in front of it. The wind always picks up, and the storms and the water patterns, the rain patterns, are carried by the wind. People will die by the hundreds in cities if the pollution is not carried away within 4 or 5 days. They wouldn't let us go to Hong Kong on R&R from Vietnam because of the pollution. You had to have a room, and even today, if you want to go to Hong Kong and visit China, your travel person will tell you to make sure your floor, that your room is above the 4th floor, because the pollution is so heavy. And Congress is saying we got to clean up our act. We got to clean up our act. America's the cleanest place on earth, second only to Sweden. You go to foreign cities, you have to get a room above the 4th floor because of pollution and the automotive exhaust and everything. If you have any kind of lung problems whatsoever, you will not have a fun stay, and you may end up in the hospital. Especially in the Far East, where they use a lot of coal, they use a lot of gasoline, and they all their gasoline still has lead in it. All their paint still has lead in it. And if you're on that bottom floor, or on the first 4 floors, and you have any kind of a lung problem whatsoever, you're going to be in trouble. Now, if the wind were to stop blowing, it would just get heavier and heavier and heavier, and people would die. Okay. Is this a punishment, do you think?
For those who don't believe,
Okay,
kind of.
I got 1 vote for punishment.
A warning.
It's a warning. It's a warning. Now, the first warning is only half as strong as the second warning is going to be. Why is that? Why does God up the ante?
Because he's
We already
serious.
said it once.
Huh?
It's like when you yell at your kids. You
Exactly.
already say it once.
That's what I was thinking.
Perfect. Yeah, Carson, would you clean up your room? And he ignores you.
We're going into a whole nother.
Okay. I look at my daughter's about to be 40, but I look at my daughter and I say, Breon, would you clean up your room? And she said nothing. What do you think happens the second time I say it?
Louder.
First and middle name.
Breon, the room. Okay? Am I right or wrong?
Right.
He's just doing what we do. He warned them once. And if you remember what happened at the end of 6, they acknowledged that it was God, didn't they? I don't care who the atheist says he is, deep down in his heart, he knows he didn't get here by accident. And he knows that there's something else. Maybe he doesn't know what it is, but he knows there's something else. And when he runs into it, most of them say, wow, maybe maybe there is something to that. Yeah. And besides that, they wouldn't debate it if they knew that he wasn't there, would they? Would it? You ever hear anybody debate unicorns?
They're real.
We don't waste our time debating
Debated them with
something.
3-year-olds a few times.
Huh?
So I've had that debate with
That wasn't
little
3
ones.
But the bottom line is, the things we debate are generally things where deep down inside, we're trying to find the truth. We want to know if we're right or if we're wrong. And so we debate it trying to find proof one way or the other, don't we? And that's, don't be too hard on somebody that says he's an atheist. Because bottom line is, he's just looking for truth. He wouldn't tell you if he didn't want you to talk to him about it. Because it's going to get an instant response in most places.
I had a really good friend all the way through high school that was atheist. And a few years ago, he was into real hard drugs and extremely smart guy, but real bad drugs. And I'd run into him at the store. He cut all his hair off. He was short hair, wearing a suit. Said he had found God. And I asked him, said, well, I basically congratulated him on it. And after a night of doing his drugs, he said God come out from behind his couch. And that's how he found it. So, yeah.
You think God really came out
Tell
from
me
behind
more
his
about these drugs.
Let's talk about, do you think God really came out from behind his couch?
I
Yeah,
believe he did.
yeah.
I think if that's what that man needed, and God loved him as much as he loves me, he'd come out from behind his couch.
Yep.
There was a little kid one time was being was taken to a Catholic orphanage. Just a true story. Taken to a Catholic orphanage, and he walked in and he stopped, and Jesus was on a cross. You know, the Catholic cross had Jesus. And he walks in and he looks up and he says, "I know him." And the priest looked at him and said, "You know him?" He said, "Yes." He said, his mom and dad had killed each other. His dad had killed his mother and then committed suicide while the little boy was in the room. He said, "Yeah," he said, "when mom and dad used to fight, I would go behind the couch and he would sit with me." This was a little 6-year-old kid.
They made a song of it.
Yeah, John Michael
They made a
Montgomery.
song of it.
Yeah, they made a song out of it. Made a
John
song out
Michael
of it.
Montgomery.
You know, God will give us whatever we need to believe in him. If we are honestly and truly searching for God, and he needs to come out from behind the couch, get ready to feel the couch move, because he's coming. He's going to give you whatever you need, and so that you can live in peace and victory and be his child. I don't doubt that God came out from behind that couch at all. I don't believe it. I don't doubt it. We got to go upstairs.
You know how hard it is though to sit here every Sunday and go back up to IU campus. The building that I have to work in right now is all about evolution and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And me being me, keeping my mouth shut.